talking about today, Richie?
We are talking about saying no to almost everything.
That sounds empowering.
It does. Yes. There's a movie about saying yes to everything, but that did not end up very well if you've seen that Jim Carrey movie.
I don't think I have.
You have it? It's called Yes Man.
Oh,
And he started saying yes to everything, and he ended up in the hospital.
oh man.
Yep. Yep. He followed somebody's advice that said like he's got to say yes more, and he went and took that to an extreme and said yes to like everything, and got overwhelmed.
All right, so saying no, not saying yes. This actually comes from another blog post by our friends over at Farnam Street, who we've kind of done this with before. They had another post a while ago. You might remember it. We did a jam about it called Are You an Amateur or a Professional? That was episode 60. So if you enjoyed that, you'll probably enjoy this. And if you enjoy this, you might want to go give that one a listen if you haven't already checked that one out. But back to saying no. Their article is actually called Understanding Speed and Velocity, Saying No to the Non-Essential. So we're going to kind of use that same thread, that comparison of speed and velocity. What is speed? Before we have flashbacks into high school physics and all that kind of fun stuff that we're not really wanting to get into. Speed is measuring how fast something is moving, right? And so in the example that they gave in the blog, they gave the example of an airplane flying. It has a speed. It's going, pretty fast, faster than a car. And then they say, okay, now what's velocity? Using that same example of the airplane, velocity is usually associated with a vector, and a vector has a direction. So we're not just talking about how fast something is going, but we're talking about where it's going when we talk about velocity. So what's the same between these two things? We've got two airplanes up in the air. Let's say airplane 1 is flying circles around Atlanta. Airplane 2 is flying from Atlanta to Chicago. Let's say they're both going the same speed. They're both going, 500 miles an hour. Airplane 1 is burning fuel, and so is airplane 2. Airplane 1 is flying in the air. Neither one of them are landing or doing anything else. So they're both up there in the air, flying around with the same speed. But crucially, what's the difference between these two planes? The first plane isn't ever going to get to Chicago. It's flying circles around Atlanta. It's not going in the direction that it wants to be going. The other plane that's flying from Atlanta to Chicago is obviously going to get there. It's making progress towards Chicago. So much like the same example that they gave in the blog about these two planes, if your business is just kind of circling, if it's not really going in the direction you want it to be going, it's not going to ever get to where you want it to be. And that's really what the whole concept is that we want to talk about today.